is Herschel Chomsky. I'm the business manager at the local library, and I welcome you all this evening to our annual flag raising and Holocaust service. In a few minutes, we will be hearing a very interesting story by Dr. Joseph Berger, retired doctor, who was a young teenager, I guess. Obviously, he'll tell the story better. But at that time, he was probably one of the younger, at this point, one of the younger survivors that's still alive. God bless him. I look forward to, I spoke to him last week, I haven't met him yet. And I look forward to, and I'm sure you'll all look forward to hearing his story. But let's first start off with the singing of the national anthems. And I would like to introduce Matti Lieberman, who will be singing, and Avi will be playing the guitar.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in there, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, Lord, my leaves of Penima, Nefesh Yehudi Haoigia, Lefatei Mizrach Kadima, Yilitzion Taifia. Not love the tikvateinu, hatikva vachna zapayim, liosam chofshim be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion, Yerushalayim, liyotam chofshim be'artzeinu, Eretz Zion, Yerushalayim.
Everyone, it's a privilege to be here again as we come together as a community to remember the horrors of the Holocaust and to remind ourselves that the world is often a perilous place, and I think we see that across so many places. There are dictators and despots, tyrants who still want to take control of nations and states. And we need to be reminded that we can't take things for granted, that things just aren't always going to be good and safe. I'm interested to hear from Dr. Berger about the reality that he was able to survive, the miracle truly, that he and his family were able to come through the concentration camp. So it's a chance for us all to come together to pray for those who were so horribly and brutally lost, and to remind ourselves that we need to commit ourselves each and every day to stand up for freedom, to stand up for our brothers and sisters, and to do what we can to make sure that this never ever happens again. Privileged to be with you today. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Perth Amboy's Holocaust Remembrance Program. It is my profound honor to stand before you here today as we come together to celebrate a remarkable individual, Dr. Joseph Berger. As mayor, I have the unique privilege of recognizing those who embody the spirit of resilience, compassion, and leadership. Today, we honor Dr. Joseph Berger, whose early life was shaped by the trials of World War II. Born in 1937 in Subotica on the Hungarian-Yugoslav border, he was raised in a devout Jewish family. His father, a physician, served in the Yugoslav army and later rejoined his family after they escaped from the Axis invasion. Despite the war, young Joseph witnessed the strength of family and the value of resilience. In 1944, Joseph and his family were part of a group of Hungarian Jews who sought refuge through the Kastner transport, only to be detained and sent to a concentration camp in Germany. There, his father's medical skills were crucial to their survival and the well-being of many others. After the war, the Berger family moved to Switzerland, where Joseph began his formal education. Their journey of resilience and hope eventually led them to New York City in 1947, overcoming strict immigration barriers with the help of friends. Joseph's commitment to service continued into his adult life. He studied medicine and served in the Vietnam War alongside his wife, Esther, a fellow survivor and veteran of the Israeli Air Force. Dr. Berger's life is another profound example of overcoming adversity with grace and dedication to helping others. As we present him with a mayoral proclamation, we celebrate his professional achievements and his enduring spirit and his deep-seated humanity. Dr. Joseph Berger. It's my honor to present you with this mayoral proclamation, servants of Holocaust Remembrance Day and the raising of the Israeli flag. And thank you for being here with us today.
Okay, so I was born in 1937 in a place called Subotica, sometimes called Sawatka. And I lived there at the very, very beginning of my life. My father was a big Zionist. My father-in-law to be also was a big Zionist. He was a dentist. And we used to go to synagogue on Friday nights. My mother, who happens to be a gorgeous lady, was the big star of the family, and all the available bachelors used to come to my grandfather's place for dinner. My father was a pediatrician and decided the place we should go was Belgrade. So we moved to Belgrade, where he was a pediatrician, had a nice office. We had a nice apartment in Belgrade. Came the war, and he was drafted into the Yugoslav army. He went to the Yugoslav army. My mom, one of my uncles, my sister and I, we lived in Belgrade. 1941 in April, all of a sudden the Germans came and they started bombing the heck out of Belgrade. After the Stuttgart bombing was finished, we hopped into my father's car, my mom, my uncle, my sister, and I, and we bought some flour, some sugar, and put it in the trunk. We were heading north to go to Subotica. As we were going on the road, all of a sudden the Germans came back and they strafed us. We got out of the car, they strafed the car. When they left, we got back into the car, but noticed in the back we could see the sugar and the flour coming out of the truck. Took us 3 days. We got to Subotica and we stayed there. My father was captured by the Germans, but he escaped. Being fluent in Hungarian, he was able to steal a Hungarian soldier's uniform and work his way back to Subotica, Slovakia. I was there also, but I was kept a prisoner by my relatives for 3 months until I forgot my Serbian and learned how to speak Hungarian. So nobody would think that I'm a foreigner. So that's how I learned how to speak Hungarian. And in Slovakia we lived fairly well. We went to the synagogue on weekends, and my sister started going to public school there, and everything was fine. Then we decided we had to move back to Budapest. We went to Budapest, and this is now 1944. We're talking about April of 1944. There were 1 million Hungarian-speaking Jews walking free. Free. My father was taken to a labor camp several times, but because there were so few physicians, they let him come back, and we were in Budapest. I didn't feel that anything was wrong with me in Budapest. I played, I didn't look particularly Jewish. I was too young to wear a star, and I played with the kids. Then all of a sudden, the Germans got into a lot of trouble in Russia, and they couldn't get their people back. So they needed 10,000 trucks. Rezher Kastner started negotiating with Eichmann, who was sending 125,000 Jews every week out to Auschwitz to get killed. And they were talking and talking and talking, and they wanted to trade 1 million lives for 10,000 trucks. But it turned out actually it was only 1,830 people. Of those people, there were 40 Polish orphans. It was Jailish Teitelbaum, the Satmar Rebbe, and his crew, some very, very wealthy Hungarian Jews, and Zionists. My father and my father-in-law to be and other Zionists were on there. We left at the end of June. On June 30th, we got on a train and we were supposed to go to Palestine. We got to the train station. It wasn't really a real train, it was cattle cars. And we were all sitting in the cattle cars. And we started going. And we went and went and went, and in 3 days we got to the Austria-Hungarian border. And there we stopped. It turned out that we could not go to the west because D-Day had occurred and there was no way for us to go west. So we were there. And we stayed. And then all of a sudden, they decided we're not going to Palestine. We made a left turn and went north and went to a concentration camp in Germany called Bergen-Belsen. Now, on the train going to Bergen-Belsen, we're sitting next to each other against the back of the car. A lady who was pregnant went into labor, and my father, he was a pediatrician, not a gynecologist, a pediatrician, delivered the baby and used my shoelaces to tie the umbilical cord. That baby survived the war, and after the war, moved to Australia, where she became a professor of cardiology at the University of New South Wales, who came to the United States with her cousin to visit me and my mom. My father had died by the time she came. When we got to Bergen-Belsen, we were in a camp. To the left of us were Dutch, To the right were Russian soldiers. Bergen-Belsen was not a camp where they were killing people. They had people there for training, for all kinds of things, but not for killing, not at that time. And so we had what was known as appel every morning. 5 o'clock we got up and had to count to see if anybody died, anybody ran away, or what have you. And for hours we stand there counting and counting and counting. And it turns out the little girl who my father delivered, her father was the man who was doing the working for in the county. Now, the camp was divided into men's barracks and women and children's barracks. In the men's barracks there were double beds, and in the women's children's there were triple decker beds. And we were there. My father, even though he was a pediatrician, he spoke German fluently, he had been a professor in Germany, and so they made him the doctor in charge of the camp for us. We took one of the barracks and made it into a hospital barrack, and we moved there. When the holiday came, we took the hospital barrack and made it into a synagogue, and we had our services there. We were thinking we were going to Palestine, never thought about anything else, so we learned how to do the Torah, learned some Hebrew, and that's it. We did not have to work, we would not have to work, we did not have any union. All of a sudden, 6 weeks after we're there, there's a big, big roll call. And we waited for hours and hours and hours out there, they're calling names out. And my sister said, but they're already at the letter K, they're not gonna call us. Turned out that those people who were there because of the money, they were going to Switzerland. So they stayed 5, 6 weeks, that's all that they were there. We stayed there for the rest of the time, and one day, one of the guards comes to my dad and says, "Are you Professor Berger?" He said, "I was." "You saved my child who had tuberculosis." And he gave my dad an apple. So my sister and I shared an apple, half and half. I had my 7th birthday there, and my mom took 7 little slices of bread that she saved and made myself what was known as a piece of cake for my birthday. To the left of us were the Dutch, and to the right were the Russian soldiers. They didn't have a pediatrician. I'm sorry. They did not have a pediatrician, so my dad was called over, and I went with my dad to where the Dutch were. It was nice. All of a sudden comes December, and they start giving us food. Why food? Because we were so skinny, we were going to Switzerland. They didn't want us to look like that. We got the food, and then we started going. We get to the train, and they have regular cars, not cattle cars, but regular cars. When we got to Switzerland, one thing happened. The Swiss soldiers and the German soldiers had the very same uniform and helmets. And I couldn't understand. I asked my mother, how come these German soldiers were giving us chocolate? Well, actually, they were the Swiss soldiers who were giving us chocolate. We went to the German part of Switzerland for a while, and then we moved to the French part of Switzerland. We were in a place called Territé, where I first went to school. It took me a couple of months, and all of a sudden I started understanding everything they were saying in French. There were two classes, 1st and 2nd grade in one class, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in the 2nd class. It was a 20-minute walk. We went there for school every day. The war was over. We played with the local children, and our life was quite good. My dad was this big hotel that was taken over. That's where he was made the doctor again. All of a sudden, there was a list of people who survived the war, and we wanted to come to the United States. But the Yugoslav quota was so small that 2 people, it would have taken us about 12 years to come. We were not going to stay there. So we decided we were going to go to Bolivia. And my dad and mom started learning Spanish. Now, there was a list of people who survived. And one of my dad's best friends who lived in New York, at 225 Broadway, saw the list, and he said, if this is my friend Imran and his kids, he will recognize my signature. In those days, checks did not have the person's name on it, only the bank's name. So he sent a check for $50. It came to us. My dad, of course, recognized the signature right away, and he went back and wrote a letter to the bank, etc., etc., etc. His best friend recognized right away, had two brothers. One was a financial advisor at FDR, and the other one worked for MGM in Paris. He took a plane from Paris and came to Switzerland, met us, and they were able to arrange us to come to the United States rather than have to go to South America. All of a sudden, stop learning Spanish, you have to learn English. It was too soon, we didn't have time, so we left. We went to Paris for a few days, but we went to London for a few days, and we took a ship called the MS Batory, B-A-T-O-R-Y. It was a motor ship, not a steamship. It took us 8.5 days instead of 4 days. When we arrived to New York, we pulled across next to the Queen Mary, and we looked like a tugboat. That's how small our ship was. Since we came from Switzerland, we did not have to go to Ellis Island. And we went, and we came out, and there was my father's friends and everybody waiting for us. And I could only speak Hungarian and French, so I said, I'm so hungry, I'd like to have something to eat. So there's a guy who was making sandwiches. He says, in Hungarian, how would you like to have, I'm going to make you a ham sandwich. I said, oh my God, I don't have to learn English. Everybody speaks Hungarian here. We went to the Bronx. We stayed there for 3 days with a lady who had the third bunk on top. In the meantime, after we left, people started coming from Auschwitz and west. And it turns out that my mother's mother and my father's mother both came to the same camp where we were, and since her name was Berger, she was the exact same barrack where we were. Before we left, we wrote, and people used to write on the beds, Berger survived, moving to Switzerland, etc., etc. So my father's mother said, my God, my family survived, I can now die, and she died there. My mother's mother survived, she came back to Yugoslavia, and then in 48, when Tito let the Jews go to Israel. Anyway, so, lived in Queens, and that's it.
Sama
Mayor, thank you very much for continuing this tradition on Holocaust Remembrance Day. My friend Herschel, known for many years. The first time I was here was 9 years ago. The first speaker was, I believe, was my father. He should live and be in health. He's close to 100. God bless him. So just want to make just one point. This cantor was singing a song of Ani Ma'amin, that I believe. I would like to explain why this song was chosen for a Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I'll explain to you why. It was in a cattle car on the way to Auschwitz when there was a singer, somebody that composes songs. He composed this particular song. And can you imagine in a cattle car, like 80 to 90 people cramped in a cattle car? I see Dr. Weber, I don't have to explain it to you. And he started singing the song. The song went and more people learned the song as he was composing it. And by miracle, it went from one cattle car to the other cattle car, the song. And all of a sudden, everybody was singing this song. It means, I believe, in the coming of the Messiah. Even though it takes such a long time, we still believe in it. The composer saw how emotional everybody was with this song that he just composed. He was a chassid of the Moshitz Rebbe. How do I explain Moshitz? It's a town in Poland. And the Moshitz Rebbe lived in New York. He very much wanted that, he knew that they're going someplace where they might not come back. But he wanted that song to make it to the Moshitz Rebbe. And the song should stay alive. So there were two teenagers on the train, in the cattle car. They took upon themselves, they will jump out of the cattle car. You know, as most people know, the cattle cars had one small little window. Two teenagers jumped out of that window. Unfortunately, one didn't make it. One passed away. The other one made it alive, and he had no idea where he was. He was, you know, somewhere in a forest or so. He survived the war. He made it out. He made it to New York. He brought the song to the Moshitz Rabbi. And that's how we all know that song. Every single event that has anything to do with the Holocaust, most of the times, I'm sure, Cantor, you know, people sing this particular song. So once again, as we're here in the City Hall of Perth Amboy, New Jersey, again, we have to thank and appreciate what the mayor does for educational purposes, and it should never be forgotten. God bless America.
מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה במעלוס קדושים וטהורים כזויר רקיע מזהירים נס נשמוס אחינו כל בית ישראל הקדושים והטהורים שנהרגו ושנשחטו ושנשרפו על קידוש השם בעבור שאנחנו נודרים צדקת הזכורס נשמו יסיים בגן עדן עולמים יסתירם וססר כנפיו לעולמים ויתרור בתרור החיים ויתרור בתרור החיים את נשמו יסיים נדוניו נחל עשם וידוכו בשלום וידוכו בשלום על משכבותיהם ונאמר
As we're ready to conclude, I just want to quickly thank a few people. Mayor, of course, Mayor Kaba, someone, the speaker for coming, Copeland, Lizette for the mayor's office, Lizette LeBron. I appreciate all the work that she helped. I see our police chief, Larry Catano, back there. Thank you for always making us safe. I thank Danny and Matthew and everyone from the Public Works. And I think the rest of the mayor's staff and everyone else. And I also want to make a special thanks to, of course, the two entertainment, Avi and Marti. And a special thank you for someone who's not looking for it, but I'm going to thank her anyway. My friend Frida Merrill, who's been helped in many ways, but the main thing, one of the main things, she got me Dr. Berger. Pleasure meeting Dr. Berger, and also she's the one who brought, all the way from Brooklyn, brought Dr. Berger to our beautiful city of Perth Amboy. So on behalf of everyone, thank you very much, and be nice that one day we never will need this, but we know that's not going to happen. But God bless America, God bless everyone, and thank you so much.